Marcus hurried through the rain-slicked streets, collar turned up against the downpour. He was already late for an important client meeting, the kind that could make or break his career at the advertising firm. 3 years of climbing the corporate ladder had led to this moment. His phone buzzed with another impatient text from his boss. As he rounded the corner toward the financial district, something caught his eye. Huddled in the shallow alcove of a closed storefront was a small figure. A child. The boy couldn't have been more than 7 or 8, his thin frame draped in clothes too large and too worn. Beside him sat a girl, even smaller, maybe 5 years old, her head resting against her brother's shoulder. Marcus hesitated. The meeting was starting in 10 minutes. He took another step forward, then stopped again. Something about the boy's eyes, alert, watchful, but with a weariness no child should possess, made Marcus pause. "Hey there," Marcus said, approaching slowly. "Are you okay?" The boy straightened, instinctively pulling his sister closer. "We're fine, sir," he replied, his voice small but determined. "Where are your parents?" Marcus asked, crouching down to their level, rain dripping from his expensive coat. The boy hesitated, weighing his words carefully. "Mom's sick. She's at the shelter, but they don't have enough beds for all of us." "And you're out here alone?" The boy nodded, his pride visibly battling with desperation. "We haven't eaten in 2 days," he finally admitted, the words barely audible above the rain. "I thought maybe someone would help, but everyone just walks by." Marcus felt something shift inside him. The meeting, his promotion, the deadline, all of it suddenly seemed distant and unimportant. He glanced at his watch, then back at the children's faces. "My name's Marcus," he said, making his decision. "What's yours?" "I'm Elijah," the boy replied. "This is my sister, Zoe." "Well, Elijah and Zoe, how about we get something to eat and figure this out together?" The children exchanged a look of cautious hope. Marcus sent a quick text to his boss with an emergency excuse, knowing full well what it might cost him professionally. Some things were more important. At the diner across the street, Marcus watched as the children ate with careful restraint despite their hunger. Elijah cut his pancakes into tiny pieces for Zoe, making sure she ate first. He answered Marcus's questions with a maturity that broke Marcus's heart. Their mother, Sophia, had lost her job 6 months ago when the factory closed. They'd been evicted 3 weeks later. She'd been fighting pneumonia for days but had finally gone to the clinic yesterday when she couldn't stand anymore. The shelter had space for her but not the children due to overcrowding. "She told us to wait at the community center, but it closed early because of budget cuts," Elijah explained, his small shoulders carrying the weight of responsibility. Marcus made some calls. First to social services, then to a friend who worked at the hospital. By evening, he had located their mother and arranged temporary housing through a local emergency assistance program. When they reached the hospital, Sophia's relief at seeing her children safe brought tears to everyone's eyes. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered to Marcus, her voice weak from illness. "No need," Marcus replied. Anyone would have done the same. But as he said it, he remembered all the people who had walked past Elijah and Zoe that day, himself nearly among them. In the weeks that followed, Marcus found himself drawn back to the family. He helped Sophia navigate the complex web of social services, used his connections to find her job interviews, and spent weekends helping them move into a small but stable apartment subsidized by a local housing program. His boss had been furious about the missed meeting. The client had gone with another agency. Marcus was demoted, his corner office reassigned. Colleagues who once sought his advice now avoided eye contact in the hallways. 6 months later, Marcus sat at his smaller desk, reviewing a modest campaign for a local business, when his phone rang. It was Sophia. "I got the job," she said, her voice vibrant with life that had been absent when they first met. "The one at the community center. Full benefits, stable hours. That's fantastic. Marcus replied, genuinely thrilled. The kids want to know if you'll come for dinner to celebrate. Elijah's making his famous spaghetti. That evening, in their small but warm apartment, Marcus watched Elijah confidently stir the pasta sauce while Zoe set the table with meticulous care. Sophia had put on weight, her face no longer hollow with worry. There were books on shelves, artwork on the refrigerator, and a sense of security that hadn't existed before. "We have something for you," Elijah said after dinner, presenting Marcus with a crudely wrapped package. Inside was a framed drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands with a taller one, standing before a house with a chimney puffing happy smoke. "That's us," Zoe explained, pointing. "And that's you. You're part of our family now." Marcus felt his throat tighten. His career might have taken a hit, but what he'd gained was immeasurably more valuable. A year to the day after their first meeting, Marcus launched his own small marketing agency with a focus on nonprofit organizations. His first client was the shelter that had helped Sophia. His second was the community center where she now worked. His office was smaller than his old one, his salary less impressive, but he'd never felt more fulfilled. Sophia eventually joined his team, her insight into community needs proving invaluable. Elijah and Zoe thrived in school, their resilience inspiring everyone who knew their story. On rainy days, Marcus found himself scanning the streets, looking for huddled figures in doorways. He'd established a small foundation that partnered with local restaurants to provide meals and temporary shelter for families in crisis. They called it 2 days, a reference to Elijah's words that had changed everything. 5 years after that rainy afternoon, Marcus stood before a crowd at a community fundraiser, Sophia beside him as his business partner, the children, no longer so little, beaming from the front row. "People often ask me why I walked away from a successful career to start over," Marcus told the audience. "The truth is, I didn't walk away from anything important. I walked toward something essential." He explained how a chance encounter had revealed what truly mattered, not the corner office or the prestigious clients, but the connections we make and the differences we can create in each other's lives. "We all have moments when we can choose to keep walking or to stop and truly see someone in need," he concluded. "The real question isn't why I stopped that day. It's why we ever keep walking at all." The foundation had helped hundreds of families find stability. The ripple effects continued to spread, former recipients becoming volunteers, community partnerships strengthening, systemic changes beginning to take root. Elijah, now a teenager with dreams of becoming a social worker, had started a peer support group at his school. Zoe's artwork decorated the walls of the community center, bright colors and hopeful scenes inspiring visitors. As for Marcus, he'd found a purpose greater than he'd ever imagined possible. His life was busier, more challenging, and infinitely more rewarding than before. Sometimes he wondered what would have happened if he'd made it to that meeting years ago. Where would he be now? What would he have missed? On the anniversary of their meeting each year, they returned to the same diner for pancakes. It had become a tradition, a reminder of how lives can intersect in unexpected ways and how a single decision can alter everything. "You know," Sophia said during their 5th anniversary dinner, "Elijah doesn't remember exactly what he said to you that day." Marcus smiled. He said, "We haven't eaten in 2 days." And somehow, those simple words cut through everything else. Elijah, now taller than his mother, looked embarrassed. "I just told the truth." "Sometimes that's all it takes," Marcus replied. The truth, spoken plainly, when someone is finally ready to hear it. As they walked home through the same streets where they'd first met, Marcus realized that he hadn't just helped this family, they had saved him too. From a life of rushing past what mattered, from success without meaning, from connection without depth. The rain began to fall lightly, and Zoe slipped her hand into his, a gesture so natural now it required no thought. On the corner where he'd once nearly hurried past a moment that would define his life, Marcus stopped. "What is it?" Sophia asked. Marcus looked at the three faces that had become his family. Just grateful, he said simply. For hunger that led to fullness. For loss that led to finding. For all the ways we save each other when we stop long enough to try. If you were moved by this story, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us of our shared humanity and the difference one moment of compassion can make. Have you ever had a chance encounter that changed your life? Share your experience in the comments below. Together, we can inspire more people to stop, notice, and act when it matters most.